Here on ChannelOne TV with me, Inosafo and Jude Duncan. As you know, right from our music, we move straight into our health segment. And today we're talking about how to handle grief. You know, we've been through a lot as a country. After the helicopter crash, 8 victims passed away. They were laid to rest on, or the final 6 were laid to rest on Friday. And how do we handle grief as a family, as a country, especially the close-knit family and close friends of such people? We all handle grief in very different ways. If you have any questions about the conversation we're about to have, any suggestions about the conversation we're about to have on grief, do well to send it to the WhatsApp number 0204 447 033 0204 447 033. Alternatively, you can use our social media platforms, #SundayBreakfast on ChannelOne TV on our social media platforms, and we will do well to read them out so that the doctor can read them out here for you. You're welcome back. We've been joined by Dr. Oum-Kalsoum Zakaria Adam. She's a public health practitioner as well as a specialist maxillofacial surgeon, and we're talking handling grief and all the, nitty-gritties about that. Do well to send your messages, your questions to the WhatsApp number 0204 447 033 0204 447 033, or you can use WhatsApp, social media, and we'll definitely read them out here for her to answer your questions for you. Doc, you're welcome.
Thank you, Enya.
How are you doing?
Very well, and you?
I'm well.
Great.
We're talking handling grief. As a nation, we've been through a lot these past few weeks. How do we collectively, or first of all, what is grief?
And very briefly, as if what we witnessed on August 6th wasn't enough. Yesterday, 5 people dead, a lot more injured on the Kumasi-Accra highway. Weeks before August 6th as well, we saw the death of 16, youth, who on their way to church, and I don't even want to talk about the number of people who've died with regards to road accidents. In the half-year report from the National Road Safety Authority, we've witnessed 7,000 crashes, and we've seen 1,500 deaths. Where the
stats
average,
aren't looking good.
When the average, prior was 1,200 deaths in the last 5 or 6 years. So it's been a very difficult start to the year, and it's statistics, but these are people's family members. These are, dependents. These are brothers. These are wives. These are, so I don't know.
Yeah, even on Friday, I think there was an accident involving a tanker, and a child died.
Yeah.
So.
And yesterday, 5 people dead. Some of them are in critical conditions, and it doesn't even look like they're getting any better. So I don't know, it's been very
difficult time.
Yeah. So I think we can go into our conversation. What's grief?
Okay. So grief is not an illness. it's part of normal process of a response to a natural loss. So the losses could be death, as we have mentioned. It could be that it's debilitating condition which is getting to the end stage of that disease. Okay, it could be anything that really would bring some strong emotional discomfort to the individual that is involved. So it is a response to particular loss or a natural loss that an individual is facing. And there are different stages of grief. And how do we say grief comes about? So talking from a hospital point of view, you notice that we tend to break bad news to people most of the time, even though this particular accident that happened, the crash, it came out there in the news, and it wasn't the appropriate way, but in such disasters or in such catastrophes, you would have little to do with how you break the news. But if you look at it from the hospital point of view, how do you break bad news to people? It's very important because it's a very sensitive situation at that moment. And you need to get the setting right. Very, very important. You need to get the setting right. So if somebody has lost a loved one and you are the person to break that news, you need to make sure that, first of all, the setting is right. And for the setting to be right, you need to make sure that you get a quiet place, a place that is isolated, you don't have a lot of interruptions within that setting. And then also you need to make sure that whoever you are breaking the news to, you make sure that they come in with other dependents. So if it's, say, a female, you need to make sure that you have a male being present before you set the setting right to do the breaking of the news. Very important. So you need to have somebody who would be able to support whoever is receiving the news or at the receiving end of the news. And then you make sure that you have the best setting where you don't have a lot of interruptions coming in. Then you go ahead. Before you go ahead, you will have to inquire from the relative or whoever is receiving the news what they know about what is happening so far. It's just to help you know how to gradually break that news to the individual. So you have to inquire and have a lengthy conversation about, so what do you know about what is happening so far? What have you gone, if it's a patient who has been on the ward for a very long time, they would have gone through the journey with the patient. They would have known that, okay, this patient, we have been on admission for, say, about 2 weeks now, and we've been running around doing all the necessary investigations that need to be done, and then making sure that whatever that is requested for is available. So you need to let them be part of the process, not only come in and then spill it out, no. So you need to let them, hear from them and know that, okay, what do they know about the situation so far? Once they tell you what they know about the situation so far, then you need to gradually tell them about the state of affairs at that point. And you don't have to be very blunt about it. You need to be very euphemistic in the way you present the information to the family. So you have to use very clear language. You have to be empathic with them. And then you would have to let them know that, yes, it is part of, there are two outcomes to whatever. Once you have a particular disease condition, either you are able to overcome whatever condition that it is, or you may end up succumbing to the situation. And you need to be very clear about it. And make sure that as you are delivering this information to the relative, you give them the time. After that, there should be some silence. Give them the time and be empathic with them for them to grieve, because that is when the whole grieving will start. Once the information has gotten to the recipient, that is when the whole grieving process would start.
We hear stories around how a lot of the time doctors, because of the work they do and what they see in some of the wards, become very numb to what the ordinary person feels when they, and my mind takes me back to I remember when I had to do a news report in the newsroom around striking mortuary workers.
Yeah.
And I went to the police hospital morgue, and I wanted to go and verify if indeed mortuary workers had gone on strike.
Yeah.
And I remember a mortuary attendant opening up one of the morgues and said I should come inside and see for myself whether they had gone on strike or they are working. And I saw some family members in there who were,
Reeling.
like it looked like their award had come to an end.
Yeah.
And mortuary workers or health officials were there, and they could be barely boarded.
Yeah.
And me
That's true.
being in there as a journalist who was frightened to the core. My question really is that you people see, and when I say you people, I mean health practitioners, you see a lot of this to a point where you become numb. So how do you deal with some of these issues on a case-by-case basis?
That's true. So that's true. I'll give a personal example. I remember when I was a house officer, my first day at work, I think I lost a patient. And
First day at work?
Yes.
First day at work?
First day at work.
Oh, like me, I'll leave the profession.
I lost a patient and I cried the whole day. I was so devastated.
First day at work?
First day at work. But subsequently, you notice that you develop a tough skin to it. But not that you develop a tough skin to the extent that you are not human or to the extent that you are not empathic. No, that wouldn't happen, because no matter what, you are also human. And even if you have developed that tough skin, to be able to handle your own emotions as a healthcare provider, because you need to be strong to be able to give your shoulder for someone else to lean on. So you need to be able to be strong so that others can lean on that strength that you have. Yes, it's important. You would develop that strategy to be able to be strong so that you can deliver such messages to patients and their relatives without breaking down yourself. And also psychologically with my first experience. Subsequently, I had to talk to a few people, psychologists, and I was able to develop that strategy to be able to dissociate my emotions from my professional work. Yes, so you would have that balance at some point in time. After saying all of these things, you notice that there are certain patients that sometimes, because you have been through the whole process, it becomes very difficult, because the patients may have become like family to you. And in that regard, it becomes very difficult for you to be the one to deliver such message. So in such cases, you, the healthcare professional, you would need to assess yourself and quickly delegate to someone else who would be strong enough to be able to deliver such messages. So yes, it's true. At some point in your life, you would have gone through or seen a lot of it, such that others who may be looking out, they may think that you're not empathic. But in all ways, you need to be able to be empathic, especially when it comes to delivering such messages to the recipients who are involved in this. So yes, it happens. There are times that I'm sure for somebody who has not been in the medical field for a very long time, it was such a traumatic situation for you to must have been told that go see for yourself if you are working or not.
I thought I was going to report on the compound and and just the guy like, no, you enter the morgue.
In the story now.
Enter the morgue and see what's happening in there.
Yes, it would be very traumatic.
Are there any similarities or what are the differences, if any, between grief and depression?
Okay, so there are stages of depression in itself. It's a condition. Okay. But we have the stages of grief.
Okay.
And the last stage of grief is depression. Even though that is not like you being medically diagnosed as being depressed, you get it. But then there are stages, different stages of grief, where the first stage will be denial. You may tell the person that, okay, this has happened. So you notice that the person will just be sitting without talking, and then all of a sudden the person may get up and say that, okay, I'm going to see the person. You know, they are still in denial. They haven't accepted or they haven't come to terms with the fact that, yes, the person is no more. So that is denial. And then at some point, the next stage of grief will be anger, where the person will now start having anger towards his or herself and starts blaming themselves.
Where they feel that they could have done something.
They would have done
to
something better to prevent whatever that may have happened. And then bargaining is another stage. So bargaining, that is when they start to come to terms with it. But coming to terms with it, they are now trying to, okay, so what can be done at this stage? Okay, I understand, but what can I do at this stage to make things better? What can I do at this stage to be able to move on?
So they try to rationalize
exactly
the situation.
Yes, being rational about the whole situation. And then they come to depression. Depression where they want to isolate themselves, they want to not be close to people, they feel that they want to shut the world and then be alone in isolation. And that is where, when you are not careful, they may end up going into some mental health conditions and even anxiety and all of that. And the last stage being the acceptance, where they tend to accept whatever that it is at that stage. So grieving is a whole process, and it's important that you allow yourself to grieve. You have to allow yourself to grieve. Otherwise, it may end up dissociating and then building up, or you may end up building up that anger within yourself. And if you suppress it for a very long time, the moment it's now decides to come out, it becomes very problematic.
And everyone grieves differently.
Exactly. Everybody grieves differently. Even when it comes to the timing, some may grieve just for about a month. Others may grieve beyond a month. Others may grieve just for weeks, and they are fine. So it depends on the individual, but you need to allow yourself to grieve. It's part of the healing process. So it's very, very important that you allow yourself to grieve. So there are certain signs and symptoms that you can actually be able to tell that this person is grieving. So you notice that the person will be, we've mentioned some of them already, the person will be extremely sad. The person doesn't want to be in the company of others. The person may want to be isolated. The person's sleep pattern will change. They used to sleep for about 7 hours, 8 hours. Now they are sleeping just for 2 hours. Yeah. And then most of the time they are caught in thoughts, you know. The person's even eating habits may change. Yeah. They used to eat properly, but now they are not eating. Yeah. It's either they are binge eating or they are eating a lot of sugary food. They are avoiding all the balanced diet that they used to eat. And then they are now indulging in other forms of eating. Yeah. Okay, and then the other thing too could be that some negative coping mechanisms, like the use of excessive alcohol, may pee away, which you don't have to indulge in. Others may end up smoking excessively. Others may end up using other recreational drugs. So
they're indulging, you know, pleasures that
exactly just to take away their minds from the reality.
Interesting.
You know, yes.
I want you to tackle this for us, and I get a sense that we might not be able to use one show to address this very important conversation. Yeah. But would you say it's only death? You know, it's only death where we see people grieve, or there are instances where persons in palliative care, or even those with terminal illness, you know, have to go through this process of grief you just mentioned to us. Yes.
Yes, very, very typical. It doesn't have to be just death. Sometimes it has to do with what's end-stage diseases. Patients who come in with end-stage cancers, and then they are told that they come in with anticipation that, okay, something can be done about it, or I can go through surgery, I can go through treatment for me to be disease-free. But then after all the investigations that they go through, you notice that you staged this cancer, and this cancer is way advanced. This cancer has spread to other parts of the body. And the only thing that may be helpful for that patient at that moment is to manage the symptoms. So we call it palliative, where you manage the symptoms and not really treat for cure, but you are just managing the symptoms until the patient leaves this world. So these are some of the stages, end-stage cancers, where
you see when you break such news, you see them go through the process of grief.
Yes,
so it's important that all of the things you said.
Yes, and even in such cases, so it's very important when you are doing this, you do a multidisciplinary team approach, where you have the palliative care team being present, because at that stage, some of them may just want to give up on life. They may just stop even having to eat, just to, and then these, if you don't contain them and then psych them up, that no matter what it is, you need to at least prepare yourself well for the end time. If you don't prepare them properly, they may end up indulging in certain activities that may even shorten their lives.
And this is true for the patients as it is for their close family
and
members.
Caregivers, exactly.
Well, like I said, time is not really on our side. And we'll probably have to continue this. I'm sure you know has a couple more questions, but after I know those questions, maybe I'll put you on the spot so you tell us some of the final words your patient said to you before they passed.
I just want to know how important it is for family or close support to be with you during that process, knowing very well that Ghanaians, we don't believe in psychologists or that kind of care.
So it's very important. Support system is number one when it comes to grieving. You need all the support, from relatives, close relatives, to friends, to everybody. We all need to know the stages of grieving and make sure that we offer that support to whoever needs it. Because at some point in our lives, all of us would go through that grieving, whether we like it or not. Because somebody may end up dying, or even ourselves. So it is important that we know it and then we offer that support to the relative who needs it at that point. And also, we need to come to terms with the fact that we have psychologists who are better trained to be able to help us go through grieving, who are better trained to help us psych ourselves up to be able to move on with life wherever we find ourselves. And we need to normalize that, because the psychologists are available and their services are very, very important when it comes to grieving. So we need to normalize that and be able to, because there are times that where some certain people may not be able to go through the whole grieving process well. They may end up indulging in other activities that I mentioned that is not healthy for themselves and even others who are around them. You need to bring in the psychologist so that they don't end up in depression, they don't end up in anxiety, high levels of anxiety, and then all other mental health problems that may come with it. So it's important that we see the importance of these professionals and then bring them on board as soon as possible.
So I'm listening to you speak right now, and like I feel like goosebumps all over me. You know, on Wednesday or Tuesday, Wednesday, I recall going to the flower lane and candle lighting. You know, designation point the presidency set up in memory of the helicopter crash victims, and I saw the wife of one of the crew members come there, lay flowers, and it's been a very haunting scene for me. And I can only imagine, you know, what the family is going through, you know, even at this point, right? And, you know, even after a very dignifying send-off or farewell burial for them, you know, you can only imagine their pain, the pain they are going through, and we wish them God's strength and peace, you know, in this really difficult moment. But thank you so much, Doc.
Thank you.
I don't know if you want to share with us some final words, you know, a dying patient said to you.
Well, some would say to you, as I said, in my beginning stages, some would say to you, "Oh, Doc, I'm going. What can you do to help me?" Yes. Some may hold your hand and say that to you, and you know they are going, you can't do much to help. And in such situations, you know, if you are not strong, you would even end up crying with the patient.
I would cry with them.
Yes.
What can you do to save?
Yeah, what can you do? Yes, those